Hello, and welcome to Afternoons with ACES, sponsored by the DC and Mid-Atlantic OATUG, OATC, and Creoal Consulting. My name is Kelly Simkiss, and I'm the marketing coordinator for Creoal Consulting. I will be moderating today's conversation about evolution of enterprise applications on-prem to cloud. This webinar is the sixth in our series, Afternoons with ACES. More than a webinar, the format is similar to a podcast and will be conversational in nature. All attendees are currently placed in listen-only mode and will remain that way throughout the session. There is a chat feature on the Zoom console on your screen. If at any time during the session you have a question, you can place it in the chat box and use the raise your hand feature to alert me to that question. I will transmit your question to our guests at the appropriate time so they may respond. Joining me today, we have Oracle Applications Aces, Lee Briggs and Thomas Simkiss from Creoal Consulting, and our guest today is Oracle Applications Ace, Bill Dunham from OATC. And with that, I'll hand it off to them. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. Nice to see everybody again. We took off last month as many of us were at the Oracle Cloud World. So I guess, Bill, my first question is going to be, what was your impression of Cloud World? First in-person event in a while. So what'd you think?
That's a great question to start out with. Certainly it's not the open world of past, right? Very different conference. My understanding, it's a totally new team that's actually putting these on for Oracle, and it was that was their very first in-person event. But overall, I thought it went fine. Some of the things that we've experienced over the years with like going to open world, we didn't have those little niceties, but nonetheless, I think it was very successful. I think overall, Oracle was pleased with it. A lot of good events from the kickoff from Larry through just other keynote. I think they had I heard they had like 20 keynotes, but anyways, I thought it was a good conference. Good to get back in person, things like that.
So Bill, we were chatting just before we came, I guess, on air, should we say?
Yep.
You were also at the East Coast OATUG. How do you guys cope with OATUG and OATC? But I digress. How was East Coast? Right?
Well, yeah. So the East Coast event we had last week. This is so it's ECO, so East Coast Oracle. It's an event that happens every fall. It is a combination of our Eastern States OATUG and the technology user groups of Virginia, so like Hampton Roads Oracle user group. So it's a mix of technology and applications. That event, we had it twice this year, had it back in February, had it this year in November as well. So we had it twice this year, kind of hurt us a little bit maybe on attendance, but overall it was very well attended. A lot of good presenters, a lot of ACE presenters, things like that. But to further answer your question about the OATUG and OATC, we talked about that, and literally I was presented a question. Hey, do you mind if we do this type of thing? But all good. So we are Oracle Applications and Technology Consulting. They are the Oracle Applications and Technology User Group. But anyways, so hopefully I answered your question.
So it's more every time we do it's like, am I OATUG or am I OATC?
Yeah, exactly.
Every time you say that, I'm reminded of the life of Brian.
Yeah.
The Judean People's Front as opposed to the People's Front of Judea.
Yeah.
So I've known Bill for forever, right? We've been at these conferences forever, but I guess we've also been on the
Customer Advisory Board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it was great that you agreed to meet up with us. I know that you hung out with Tom a little bit at Cloud World. I wasn't there. I had other things to go on. But I guess the topic of that we were looking at today was the evolution of applications, I guess, from back in the day when we all started and we all had, hair that wasn't great, through today.
Hair. Yeah. Yeah, I actually had hair when I started, and and this is because of all of this evolution, right? We if you look at enterprise applications and kind of where we were and where we are today and where we're kind of going, cloud is not new. As you all know, cloud applications, the evolution of the SaaS products are really a culmination of a lot of different, products over the years. E-Business Suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, go down the list. It's really, Oracle has presented these cloud SaaS apps. They tried it years ago to develop it, and I think with the advent of improved internet connectivity, and people are, I'll say, slowly adapting into the SaaS model, as well as right now we're talking infrastructure, as well as infrastructure as a service, and then platform as a service. It's a transition or an evolution for organizations. You look at some of these big companies like the General Electrics, they have cloud apps, but they're not running it, they're not running the entire organization on cloud apps. Okay. They're maybe running it, one component or one application, but they also have they have the e-business suite installation with other big companies like Michelin, huge EBS installation, the federal government EBS installation, but the evolution literally going back over the years, right? So we look at the MRPs, the MRP2s, and getting into enterprise, resource planning or enterprise applications. Organizations that implemented those products, some of them, large companies, are still going to have that mix of, as they evolve, right? They're going to have a mix of on-prem and cloud. And I think we're going to see this hybrid installation is really going to be more of a norm than full, implementation in cloud. Now, that's for large organizations. You get into smaller businesses that can make that transition to fully cloud easier than a larger business. That's more attractive to them, right? And obviously, I think with smaller businesses, the adoption is going to be faster. And they, again, in larger businesses, they'll strategically position themselves and probably get to some hybrid type mode at some point, X, put it in the future, if you will. But I'll stop rambling for a second, let you guys ask questions, because I could probably ramble on for the next 30 minutes all by myself and not make sense.
One relates
Please.
One relates directly to the webinar, and the other one is just touching on something you said. So I did one of those executive interviews yesterday, and I was asked about cloud adoption in SMB versus cloud adoption in other businesses. And I in the last 5 years, it has been much more cloud adoption in SMB growing businesses than larger businesses.
Absolutely.
Whether they're less risk averse or it's just easier to move. But I mean, our client base is moved from 50-50 to probably 75 SMB. I mean, it's just they're the ones that are going after it.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And the ability to adopt, right, is that they're able to adopt faster, quicker, and these larger. Absolutely, that's what it all comes down to. The larger businesses. What we had this love and hate for Oracle, right? We've been doing this stuff for a long time.
We're love
and the what was that?
We're love and hate Oracle. We swear. We promise.
Yeah, exactly. But if you look back, I mean, the hyper marketing that's going on with the cloud applications and things like that is that, I think there's every Gartner award that these organizations are winning, right? Oracle's winning a Gartner award on a regular basis for these products. SaaS products are, I like to say, SaaS products are maturing. Okay, where some of these other products like EBS and PeopleSoft, they are mature being used by big businesses. That is going to be a very long time before they would transition over to cloud, if they ever go to cloud. But certainly small medium business, the SMBs are certainly easier to adopt and implement. From a change management perspective, easier to execute versus these multinationals and things like that would be becomes more difficult for them. But anyways, what else?
Well, I got one question. So, and actually, it's Bill. I got to mail you a 20 because you led into my question with what you just said. So again, I have an anecdote, and I'd like to see if you're seeing it or you're seeing differently. So we, Lee and I grew up through EBS. We've been doing cloud, and we have recently kind of have like a cottage industry of going in to either rescue failed implementations or to improve on implementations that were done. And what I'm seeing in cloud is so frustrating because I'm seeing some of the same things I used to see in EBS, which is people don't use the standard reports, they don't use the standard tools, they all do data dumps. And, I'll go in and I get the same responses that I got 20 years ago. Well, I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Which infuriates me because whatever they're doing, I always do the same thing. It's like, okay, let's go in Google and type your question. Oh, look, here's a YouTube on how to do exactly what you're doing. Well, we don't like the standard Oracle reports. And, I used to get that in EBS before they used to be a publisher, right? The reports were text-based and they were hideous, but that never held much more weight with me after being a publisher because you could do anything you want. But I guess my question is, given that you do the same thing we do, and like, do you see the same thing in your clients and the people you go into, that they just either unwilling or unable to use the standard tools to get what they need?
If you think about it, a lot of that's culture related, right? And I'll give you an example. We went into an organization where they had a report called the Pink Sheet. All right, and it was a pink sheet that was created over the years and transitioned to EBS to cloud, right? And prior to that, it was to their mainframe application. And they called it the Pink Sheet. It was a Pink Sheet report. It was important to them. They needed it. It wasn't a standard report. It was purely custom. But part of the culture was this Pink Sheet. And the reason it was called Pink Sheet, it was printed on pink paper, mainframe days. Pink, white, not white paper, pink paper.
Yep.
So over that transition from mainframe to EBS to cloud, we need the Pink Sheet. And it's like, do you really? There's not standard reports that you could utilize that would give you that same information. Nope, we need the Pink Sheet. So the culture of an organization to carry some of these, just, hey, that's the way we've always done it. The opportunity for cloud is to ingest, new business processes, perhaps new reporting, perhaps, using OTBI, using, Taleo, using, not Taleo, but Taleo as a recruitment tool, but other reporting tools that may give them, graphical user interface or graphs and things like that, a much better dashboarding and things like that. It's an evolution and a transition for people. And I think, again, a lot of the culture within a business is just because that's the way we've been doing it. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to continue to do that in the cloud applications. It's really eye-opening. It's an opportunity for improvement. And it's willing, whether the organization is willing to do that or not. I would think that if these executive C-level have committed to cloud, they're committed to change, and they're committed to getting rid of the same old, if you will. I could ramble on some more about that.
And I don't know if it's I always have looked at application, whether it's EBS or cloud, as, oh, there's something new there. I want to learn what that is. I want to take advantage of it rather than doing stuff where it's always been done. And the cool thing coming to cloud was, okay, now we have OTBI, and you had OBI, BI, business intelligence, whatever it was back in EBS, but okay, I have it now. It's available for me. I don't need to check that. Let me figure out how to use it. I have SmartView now. I can do all this kind of cool stuff. That's awesome. Or FRS, where I can do all these transactions. But it seemed a lot of our clients have gone, no, just dump it out to Excel. I'll pivot table it. I'm going to use the tool that I know best. I'm not going to do that with. And I don't know if that's if it's a consulting thing. I don't know if it's not, I don't want to say an ACE thing because that's the wrong term. I don't know if it's hey, we're at the front line of this, so we're trying to learn all this kind of stuff, or whether it's, I don't have time to do this anymore. Do you have any thoughts around that?
This is, I have a saying that when you retool a business, you retool IT, right? So, if IT is the team that's responsible for any new, report custom development, they need to learn new tools, right, to support the business. If it's an end users, let's say that the organization, the small, medium-sized business, doesn't have the IT team that that supports or writes reports and things like that. The organization, from that standpoint, may adopt standard reports and deal, and that's suffice. That works for them because they don't have the resources to build out any new reports, whether it be third-party products or OTBI or et cetera. But, I think a lot of it is, again, it's culture, it's the organization, what kind of support do they have, and users, power end users, do they have the ability to actually write reports? Do they understand, they can dump stuff to Excel and then manipulate the data themselves? I mean, there's so many different avenues to go with this. But certainly a lot of it's culture, size of business. Do they have IT resources to do development for them? Do they have a utility or a tool to assist them with end user reporting, things like that? What else? Another. I'm going to add a little bit to this, is that as organizations are looking at implementing or rolling out a cloud product, one thing that we're kind of, and I had a question about this too at one of the conferences, someone asked this, is that you're retooling the business with new application technology, right? You're implementing, cloud apps, all right? With that, I had the question I had asked of me is, what do we do with our DBA? What does our DBA do now? Well, another twist to that, I said, well, that person may become an architect of some sort. Maybe your cloud art depends on their skill set and their ability to transition into that new product suite, right? But along with these cloud implementations, we're encouraging organizations to look across the business and identify, the rising stars in the business, get them engaged with the implementation such that they learn and grow with the organization, with the product, and become that subject matter expert in the future. That is something that's lacking now, because we've got in the EBS world, we've got that aging workforce, right? That we're, customers are losing employees, and a kid out of college doesn't necessarily want to learn EBS, or, and so those are the things where, organizations need to identify those rising stars to be a part of that implementation and learn the product suite, whether it be technical, functional, etc. Anyways, I'll leave it there for a sec.
No, I think that's great. It's kind of comforting that the folks in our industry are here to say things. We had a project out in California where they selected Oracle Cloud over another solution, and one of the main reasons they did it, feature functionality was great and it's all well and good, but it was really the look and feel and the ease of use.
You got it.
Because they said they had an aging workforce and they were not going to be able to attract younger people to do a public sector job learning 30-year-old technology. They weren't going to be able to do it. These folks want to be marketable and they want to be the next basis. And to do that, you got to learn the newer technology. And in some respects, though, I will say we have one client that we just brought on that's doing 12.1.2. There is some comfort to those job forms. I got to be honest with you. I can cruise. I can just actually book through that thing. I do miss some of that, without a doubt.
Well, there is so much. There are new, believe it or not, there are new EBS implementations going on. Cliff Godwin speaks to those. Some very, very large, federal government projects and things like that. EBS is by far not dead. It'll be, Oracle's that got that runway to 2033. It's happening. There's a lot of lifts of EBS up to OCI, Azure. AWS is a big player now. AWS is trying to get into the EBS lift and shift to AWS cloud versus everybody lifting Azure or OCI. So, and anyways, but there's a lot of EBS work out there, and EBS, there's thousands and thousands of users worldwide. Some nobody even knows who they are. In some cases, they come out of the woodwork.
That does count as going to cloud. Like, again,
absolutely.
I think, can't remember, 2 or 3 weeks, it was right after Cloud World, excuse me. We had an IT strategy session with one of our clients, and it reminded me, it was interesting because I used to make this joke, I think like 6 or 7 years ago. I had a meeting with the CFO, Oracle ERP Cloud was just kind of out, and we had done a couple of implementations on a ton, and we had a meeting with a CFO in Philadelphia. He's like, I got to get to the cloud. I'm like, okay, before I ask you, what that means, I got to say why. So because my board said we have to have a cloud strategy, and you need to come up with one. Like, there was no reason for it. They had to get to the cloud. So, flash forward, I'm in, a different boardroom, but also in Philadelphia. And we were talking with a client, and he talked about their cloud strategy. But this guy was pretty advanced. He was like, I'm happy with my on-premise apps. Is there anything that would prevent me from just moving this stuff to, he said, Azure. No, there's not. Just like you said, Cliff just was out at an Oracle conference, and there's a clear runway to 2033. And if it's running, there's just, there's no reason not to do it. There's too many good pieces. And unfortunately, if you're, looking at an ERP cloud, the product is great. I mean, EBS is still great. They keep enhancing it, and it's still a good platform. There's a lot of stuff that it doesn't do that the cloud does that I love. I mean, I love the reporting in cloud and the analytics and everything else, but if you've got a large multi-tiered complex manufacturing environment, EBS is going to probably be a good solution for you.
Yep. Yeah, what's I mean, what Oracle, and Cliff says this as well in this presentation. I mean, what Oracle really wants, if you look at an organization, you know, large manufacturer may have EBS, financials, manufacturing, et cetera. What Oracle is professing and what they have said is look at the cloud applications that would augment or provide technology where you don't have it. So let's say you don't have Concur, but you've been doing manual expenses and you're doing paper expense. Well, hey, look at iExpense. Or look at, you know, cloud expenses. Look at a way to implement a cloud product that would augment your current EBS installation, and set a strategy to, you know, maybe that's the first application. Then maybe you look at procurement cloud, and then you start working your way, you know, over X number of years to, you know, with a strategy in mind to get fully cloud by X.
Yep.
You know, there should not be with some of these large manufacturers a rush to implement the cloud applications based on, you know, market pressures and things like that. You know, is it set your own strategy, don't let Oracle set it for you.
Yep. And that was one of the things that we looked at. You started thinking about earlier on when cloud applications came out, Oracle cloud applications. It's, do I go work from the outside in? So find something out there, maybe cloud recruiting, something like that. So I keep all my EBS, but just have something out there. Or do I go inside out and take, you know, I'm going to have general ledger because that's the hub of everything. I'll keep everything else out in, you know, on-prem or whatever, and do it out there. And it's great to kind of see that stuff work. We've got federal clients who are doing inside out and outside in. So they have purchasing and purchasing in cloud. We still have to set some stuff up, but it's still purchasing in cloud, send it over to EBS. You know, you can do all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So we do have a question from Justin, if you want to chime in here.
Sure.
He asked, considering the topic of organizations holding on to business processes, example, the pink sheet, what is a way to help users who are paper tied to get excited about adopting a cloud-based system like Oracle Cloud?
No more paper. You know, that a lot of that's change management. Is implementing a rock solid change management program. You know, I have all these little sayings that I've learned over the many years of doing this stuff. It's typically not the transition, the implementation. It's really the transition of people. So it's transitioning them from old to new. Okay, so a change management program, taking them from paper to cloud and coming up with a change management program to get them there. That'll happen. You know, it's just, it is part of a change management program that would, you know, work within your organization to meet the goals and objectives of the implementation. It is not difficult. Just because we're implementing cloud applications now, doesn't mean the way we execute a project is any different. You know, these agile methods, there's agile components to any project. Yep. But typically, you know, organizations that are using an agile approach, and I could go off and give you an example about a very large cloud implementation that used agile, that created mass confusion in the organization. So, but typically you're still going to use some type of waterfall/agile method to implement and execute your project along with that change management. Again, I could ramble on some more. Hopefully
it's
that
not rambling. You get, you know, folks think they understand this and they don't do it. We walked away from a client last year that they're like, we want an agile implementation. Like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? Well, you know, we want to go live with phases. I'm like, okay, look, dude, you're putting in financials. You want me to just go live with general ledger? Are you going to interface? Are you going to manually key all those payables? And what do you mean? Like, stuff's got into the GL somehow. How you want to do it? Like, you tell me. You said you want an agile. What do you want to go with first? If we flip payables on, how are you going to get that over to your general ledger now? How are you going to get your purchase order? And you know, people that don't do this for a living, and even some of us that do, because I'm not a PMO by any stretch of imagination, they don't really understand what they're asking for when they say agile. But to answer Justin's question, a common trope that I say, and I believe it because I've seen it, is when you're moving from on-premise applications, whether it's EBS or Edwards or whatever, in the cloud, I have found, whether you're using ERP, cloud ERP, or Workday, or NetSuite, the methods of getting information into cloud are far superior than the legacy applications. So what I have seen is that data creators, meaning people that were responsible for pushing things in, turned into data consumers, right? So people that were, previously just entering invoices are now having time to analyze them and look at them and make sure they're not getting charged and make sure they're not getting charged twice and seeing their supplier performance. So that's really what I think, Kelly, to answer Justin's question, is that's how you get people excited. And it actually goes back to the DBA. Your job isn't going away. It's going to change. You're not going to be, bouncing the instance anymore. You might be making sure the architecture is practice. It really is a matter of helping the transformation.
The other part to actually add to that as well, from the reporting perspective, it used to be I have your pink sheet, right, which has, it has whatever on there. Okay, why is that number different? Okay, let me go away and dig around with it. But you start going to a cloud point of view. Why is that number different? Well, depending on the technology, you just click on it and it'll tell you what it is. Or maybe we knew that we sent a ton of people to Cloud World last month. That's why conferences is high. But I'll put a note on my financial report. So anyone who looks at it can do that, or even whatever tool. That's, I've looked at it from the dumb implementer's point of view. I don't want to do that work of going to go and investigate it where I can give it to you so we can cut out the communication from me and then me replying back and you get through all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Some of this goes right to the title, right? We're evolution. So evolution. It's not just the enterprise, it's people, it's everybody, it's the organization. We're all evolving. These are by far, the direction of, where Oracle's going and laying, I'll say the pathway for many their roadmap for organizations to the cloud and to get there. It's certainly every organization that has EBS will at some point likely have some type of cloud application, and whether it be it's firmly integrated with EBS or not, it's going to be one of those things. It depends on the organization, but this is all great discussion, good, open discussion. What else?
I'd be curious if you've seen this. So, again, it sounds like, as we always get asked for, what's the TCO or what's the ROI? And when I used to have to do those for EBS, I think the TCO was easier to calculate for EBS, but the ROI I always struggled with it. I always struggled with calculating an ROI. I do find it a lot easier. The TCO I find harder to calculate with cloud, but I do find the ROI, especially when, again, you're going to transform people and you're going to get data out and you're going to reduce your cycles, and that's stuff that you can show. And I've got more than enough anecdotal evidence to prove it, right? So, you're going to remove that on-prem license. You don't have to have hardware anymore. You're not paying those BDBAs, all those things, and that's real hard dollars. And then, of course,
absolutely,
you got costs. Do you get asked to do that? Do you see that? And what are the things that you see as far as return on investment and even TCO for moving cloud?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because that is something I'll say not enough organizations really do that. If you look at typically, if you look at an EBS installation, right, and they've got tons of customization, their TCO is potentially through the roof. But looking at it and saying, all right, we're going to transition. They got a big IT staff or development staff and DBA staff, and so that total cost of that implementation as compared to a cloud implementation, if you look at the same modules, it's very almost common sense that, hey, you're going to save money by going to cloud applications. Now, you also got to take it into consideration too, is the maturity of that EBS and the maturity of the cloud products, whatever they're implementing. Is that, are they going to lose functionality, features, things like that they don't have in the cloud where they have got it on-prem, or in EBS? What's that impact to the organization too? There is in understanding those risks as well, right? But certainly from a TCO standpoint, we did a break-even TCO model for an organization to implement cloud procurement, and they had already paid for purchasing iProcurement, owned all those licenses for years, never implemented it. So their TCO is going through the roof, right? And it made sense to look at cloud and pay, pay as you go. And certainly from a TCO or from a TCO and cost benefit, it made sense to them because they had already they had all the sunken costs into EBS for years. That's a shame, right? They were sold something they never implemented. Shame on them for not doing it. And now they want to implement cloud procurement. And frankly, that became a more viable solution for them than looking at, implementing something old or older technology. But we don't, we get some customers that ask that question. Some don't. Some are very interested and I'll say intuitively know that, hey, we're going to save X. We still need to transition off these on-prem apps, but we know we're going to, at 5 years from now, we're going to save money. And, it's going to be certainly from an infrastructure standpoint, employees go down the list, but anyways.
I say the other things to add on to that, you start saying, okay, I'm getting rid of the infrastructure, right? Because, your hosting provider, whatever, is going to keep that out there. But it's also the delivery time of this. If I need a server, I need it now. Well, I can go
exactly.
on or wherever, try and order it, and it's going to be 3 weeks or spin up.
You got it.
There I go. It's done.
You can literally, someone can go into OCI or really any of the cloud products, go into OCI, serve up a tenancy, create a server, within an hour.
Yep.
And you literally could have that environment up and running within an hour. If you wanted to put, if you go into the marketplace, there's all kinds of goodies out there that you can employ to that tenancy if you desire. But so the ages of buying a piece of hardware to put in a data center and then waiting a month to get it, long gone. I highly encourage anyone, whether you're listening now or going to be listening later, take a look at any of the cloud products and you can serve up a tenancy for backups or, slowly transitioning your non-prods or, whatever it is that you're going to do, or set it up for platform as a service with integration into cloud, whatever you're going to do with it, you can stand up those tendencies very quickly. And whether it's a complete change in mindset, it really is. Anyways.
I'd say one of the cool things that we get as ACEs, and we have people listening on this who aren't ACEs, but as ACEs, Oracle gives us that stuff.
Just gonna say that.
That's
What I was gonna say.
But we get kind of free stuff on here. So I was able to spin up a Visions instance in cloud. And I remember back in the day, like I built my own 12, I can't remember what it was,
12.2.6.
12.2.6. And that took me forever. I was following all the notes and I'm no DBA. So it's literally, you tell me to type Fred, I'm typing Fred and it's going to be wrong. But you get this now of, oh yeah, I need an environment and I need Visions, click. Okay, well, here's your login information. It's like,
Yep.
I can do that.
But even if you're not an ACE, you get the free trial and you get a couple free things with Oracle. You get, and they'll give it to you for like 30 days. Sometimes it's like 60 days. You can spin up a vision. It's like when we started at Creoal, we needed a vision. Yep. We literally ordered 5 terabyte external hard drives that we built it and imaged it. And I gave it to my consultants, like, here you go. It's like, that was only 5 years ago and the technology was there. It wasn't as simple. So now we just, I spun the instance up. We got a 12.6 environment. I go into I spin it up. There it is. It works. And then I just spin it down when I'm done with it.
You got it. Marketplace within OCI. There's EBS Visions available, 12.2.11. Actually, 12.2.12 is coming out tomorrow. So EBS 12.2.12 comes out tomorrow. You'll see the announcement. But
customer advisory board meeting when Oracle were first kind of showing this around to us. It's like, how do you think about this? Look, we can spin an instance up, and they log on and they start doing stuff. And I think it was text-based, and look, and you could see the code scrolling through, like kind of like the Matrix. And you're looking at it, it's like, no, this is never going to work. But it's awesome now. It's there, and it's seamless.
Yeah, this is really, if you think about it, that the role of like a DBA or a sysadmin, someone that has the ability to learn those new skills. Sometimes guys don't have the desire, right? But they could go in, learn OCI, learn how to use Cloud Manager, learn how to spin up, environments and work in availability domains and regions and all of that. And set up DR using OCI, using Terraform to serve up, create servers and all of that. it is a totally different mindset, but it is something that techies can transition to and probably would absolutely love it. So certainly, an opportunity for, kind of that retooling of the IT team. And, you're going to need those resources. You're going to need networking resources. You're going to need perhaps some new roles that you don't have today, and look at your team and see who it is that can evolve into those new roles, or maybe hire into it if you need to hire some new skills to develop those rising stars in the business,
Yeah, that was always one of the core points. You have these small companies who are like, what benefit do I see? Well, you've got your IT team, that you currently have, and maybe they're awesome or maybe not. But going to I'm trying to keep in the graphic. There we go. We're going to like a cloud-based instance. You know what you're getting. You are getting world class is probably long term, but they are all trained at the same level. So you have that kind of thing. It's one of the cool things out there.
So before I forget, Bill, I know when we booked you for the gig, we were like, you had to squeeze us in because you're booked at so many places this month.
Yes.
What else you put on a show in the month of November?
Well, we just finished up. I am talking this afternoon in Oracle OATUG Cloud Week. We have a cloud SIG panel this afternoon. I think it's 5 p.m. Eastern. I think it's free to OATUG members. And I think if you wanted to listen in, we've got I think Brian Pellegrin, Gustavo, myself, Ravi. I don't know who else is on that, but there's a very good cross panel, across the technology functional panel. So I'll be talking this afternoon. I am slated. Where else? Spoke last week at ECO. I have a little bit of break around the holidays. I talk again in February at the RMUG event in Denver. I think is the mid-February, but that's it for the moment. I got to get those ACE points up, right? So got to present. So
we'll make sure you get the YouTube link for this one. You get
Yes,
those
you got to
20
count
points.
it for your 20.
you know what? I didn't even think about that until you just said that. Hey, I can add this, can I? So yeah, perfect.
So we've been trying to do we've been trying to do this like it's once every month or every 2 months, and I kind of like the format. So we're thinking about going with a podcast. Like I said, sometimes the attendance is really good.
Perfect.
Not so good, but our YouTube has certainly been trended up. You do a lot of these, right? Lee and I have done a ton of these. What's your experience in as far as like people attending webinars? Do you find it is dragged down, consistent? Like what are you saying?
I mean, it's obviously people used to like to travel if it was a cool location to go to, but definitely it's the in person is down right now, and I think we're in that rebound. But the virtual or hosted events like this, it's definitely up. I think this is a very broad subject, perhaps not as detailed in some cases for some folks. The attendance wasn't very good, but it is what it is. But these are difficult to pull off. I would think that maybe once you publish this, it may get more hits on YouTube or what have you. But it is easy for folks now to just sit at their desk or sit at home and listen and watch this. They don't have to jump on a plane or get in a car and go to an event. But some of the OATUG events that we've had had virtual were very well attended. Some folks sign up. You may get 100 people sign up, and 60 actually show up, and that's pretty darn good in the middle of the day too, right? So we've also had when I think with ECO we did virtual, and the attendance was okay considering. Not the numbers we would see on-prem, and even I think we're a couple of years away from getting back to that. I don't want to say the new norm, right? Everybody says that, but it is going to be a new normal for us, and I think it's going to be a few more years before we see anything like the numbers we had in the past. And certainly, one thing, and you're making me think a little bit here, is one thing that we need to make sure happens in the industry is that events like this, the OEUG, the OATUG, the ECOs, they're all getting those new cloud members associated with them to assist them as they go through their journeys to the cloud. It's an opportunity for all of them to get that other experience that they're not going to get directly from an Oracle event or an Oracle community. They're going to hear real world examples from users and, partners like us and things like that. So, and I'd say if people are listening to this now and you listen to it in the future, join, support your user group. They're there to help you. OATUG was formed maybe 30 years ago to assist EBS users in their journey through EBS. They're evolving into that same model for the cloud applications and cloud infrastructure, OCIs and things like that. So support them.
Cool. So I guess I mentioned this the last one we did this, but it's always pertinent about the on-prem meetings. I would mention my friend Hans, so I find a reason to mention him every time we do one of these. But said to me many times that the value of the in-person sessions was the time in between sessions. I used to get more information and more contacts from people I'd meet talking in the halls than I usually go to the on-prem sessions. And that was the same case when I was out at Cloud World. I bumped into a couple of people and had a couple of meetings, and it was certainly value add. So, for those that are watching and you're trying to make a use case to your manager or your supervisor about why you should go on premise, some of those intangibles and some of those things that are harder to capture are the things you need to communicate. Bumping into Bill, if you bump into Bill in the middle of the hallway and you get asking Ace a question, I'm sure Bill, you're probably like me and Lee. My consulting philosophy is when I'm there for free. You can ask me anything you want.
Got it.
If I know how to answer, I'll give you an answer. So, something to consider.
No, very good point. Yeah, very good point, Tom. I think that is huge. And think about it too with going into the office. You don't have that water cooler time, right?
Yeah.
Here we end this session, we're done.
Yeah.
And given the conferences are really the same way. I mean, I can remember being at OATUG Ascend in June and being in a cloud session. And then as you walk out the door, you got 4 people hounding you and they're firing off questions. That is invaluable. So to your point, very good point.
Well, with that, we have a couple announcements and then we'll let you go. So the call for papers for the OATUG should be coming up. And I think our camera froze, but coming up in a couple weeks. So, for those that are watching on YouTube, the deadline may be fast approaching, even though today it is not. Make sure you get your papers in. Send is going to be in Orlando next year, right? I believe.
Yes, it is. Yep, Orlando in I think June.
Yep, that sounds correct. Yep. So, Bill, it's always a pleasure. I cannot thank you enough for doing this.
Thanks, Bill.
And Kelly,
you're very welcome.
Folks, thanks for attending. Appreciate your time, and we will see you next time.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
Take care. All right, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. A recording of this webinar will be made available shortly and sent to all attendees. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.